like to start November's council. Can we all take a seat, please? Right, who's got distinction? Right. Apologies from absence. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Collins, Holloway and Councillor Simmons. Minutes. Due to the timing of the publication of the minutes of the 22nd September 2021 will be included in the 26th January 2022 agenda. Items of urgent business. I have not agreed for any items of urgent business. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made? No? Good. Announcement on behalf of the Mayor and the Leader of the Council. I'll keep this brief. I had the honour to be invited to Sir David Amos's funeral on Monday, which I attended, and the service was really lovely. And now I'd like to ask Councillor Gledhill if he'd like to speak at all. Thank you. Questions from members of the public. I will now take questions from the public. One question has been submitted and accepted by the monitoring officer. These are set out on page 9 of the agenda. I would like to ask the questioner to read out the question when asked to do so. We have up to 30 minutes for this item. Therefore, can we please ask that the questioner and the member be brief as possible in their questions to ensure that we cover as many of them as submitted tonight. I would also inform the questioner that any supplementary questions they may ask should not take the form of a statement and must be related to the original question or the answer that is given. Question 1. Mr. Perrin, please read out your question set out on page 9 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I congratulate and thank the Council for its intention to plant flowers on grass verges. However, would you please confirm that the planting of flowers will apply to all grass verges throughout the borough, not to just a few select areas?
Councillor Jeffries, please respond to the question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Perrin, for your question. I'm delighted to say that a new land maintenance strategy will be considered by the Cabinet in January. The strategy outlines how the borough's public open spaces effectively maintained, where appropriate, allowing grass to grow alongside wildflowers and meadow planting will increase the biodiversity, and these areas will provide important habitats for insects, pollinators, and provide new wildlife havens that are crucial to the development of our parks and open spaces. Many factors need to be taken into consideration when introducing these areas, such as highway safety, site levels, and underground services. They will initially be piloted with a view to making them a permanent part of our landscape. There will be highway verges and other areas that are not suitable for wildflower planting or long grass regimes. The decision on where and how to plant will be taken on a site-by-site basis.
Mr. Perrin, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I congratulate the Council because I consider any proposal to enhance the appearance of grass verges deserves credit and is a cause for celebration. However, if the scheme is to be successful, grass verges must be protected from the vandalism of motor vehicles being parked on them. I think you are naive if you believe that the planting of flowers on unprotected grass verges is going to deter drivers from parking on them. For many years, I have pleaded for the protection of grass verges throughout the borough to no avail. At my request, councillors and council officers have viewed the state of the unprotected grass verges in the vicinity of my home in Broxburn Drive, South Ockenden, and agreed the unsightly puddles of water and mud are unacceptable. To date, no action has been taken to protect these grass verges, and insofar as I'm aware, no action has been taken by the council to prosecute offending drivers who flagrantly disregard council rules and continue to park on grass verges with impunity. I therefore think it is unlikely that I will see flowers planted in the grass verges in my area. Councillor Jeffries, will you prove me wrong and take speedy appropriate action to protect all grass verges, starting in my area of Broxburn Drive? Thank you. Oh, and just before I go, may I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Perrin, for your supplementary question. I'm not familiar with where you actually live, but I'll give you an assurance that tomorrow morning I will raise it with officers. We will look at it. We will see if there's something that can be done to stop the nuisance of parking, because I agree, cars shouldn't park on grass verges, and if we are going to wildlife flower and put plants and vegetation there, we don't want it ruined by cars. So you have my assurance we will look at it and we will take your comments very seriously.
Thank you.
Petitions from members of the public and councillors. Please be advised that in accordance with the council's petition scheme, 2 notices of petition have been received this evening. Can I ask Councillor Van Day to present the first petition in regards to the call on the council to rename the B1335 Avery Bypass Lance Corporal Nicky Mason Way? Councillor Van Day.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, it is with very mixed emotions that I now present this petition. On the one hand, it's a cause for great sorrow, because it reminds us of the tragic loss of one of Averley's finest. On the other hand, it is a personal privilege for me to be leading a campaign which seeks to properly commemorate this local hero. Madam Mayor, the petition I wish to submit reads as follows. We, the undersigned, call on Thurrock Council to rename the B1335, the Avery Bypass, to Lance Corporal Nicky Mason Way. We believe this would, we believe, would be a fitting and lasting tribute to Lance Corporal Mason, a former Averley resident who gave his life on active duty in Afghanistan on the 13th of September 2008. And this has been signed by 2,678 people. I doubt any member of this chamber has failed to hear of Nicky and the ultimate sacrifices he made. He was, as the petition suggests, an Averley resident who went on to serve his country in the war against terror. He did so, of course, along with thousands of other servicemen and women from our shores, so that we here in Thurrock and the United Kingdom could lead safer lives. In Nicky's case, he was sadly killed in an explosion in the Helmand province whilst on active duty with the Parachute Regiment, Para 2. He was just 26 years old. Nicky is widely known throughout the UK and Averley as a very brave soldier who fought and died for his country. But to
Can you sum up, please, Councillor Van Day?
But to those who knew him closely, he was a son, he was a brother, he was a friend, and much more. His loss has always been felt deeply by his family, especially his father, Dennis, who runs a charity in Nicky's memory, and he has his full support for this campaign, and I can assure every member here that that's true. When I was first elected, it became very clear to me that the Aveney community had never forgotten Nicky. And whilst there are some small and unofficial tributes, one wonders, would they stand the test of time? And with that in mind, we cannot let Nicky's name and sacrifice fade as the years go by.
Right, thank you, Councillor Van Dalen.
The Aveney bypass is a road close to where Nicky was raised, and he would have crossed it daily on his way to school. It is a major route through the community he lived in, and it would be so very fitting if it were to bear his name. I therefore submit this petition on behalf of the Aveney community and Nicky's family. I call upon this council to begin steps to rename the Aveney bypass as requested. And I'm sure I command the support of all members here tonight. Thank you.
Can I ask Councillor Muldowney to present her petition, please, in regards to the call on the council to resurface Caledonian Way, a main bus route in Chadwell St Mary? You're allowed 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm submitting this petition on behalf of the residents of Caledonian Way who've been waiting for a number of years to have their road resurfaced. I know that previous councillors who were successful in having Waterson Road resurfaced last year also pushed for this main bus route to be resurfaced. Over the summer, an inspection of the road showed it to be in a terrible state. Although some of the many potholes reported, particularly by Herringham School and the junction with Longhouse Road, were filled, the whole road has cracks down its length and across its breadth. And residents have reported coming off of cycles because their wheels have become stuck in the cracks. Given the council's aim of encouraging active travel to schools, it's essential that the roads near schools be safe enough to cycle on, so more children and families are encouraged to get out of their cars and onto bikes. Although we have heard from the portfolio holder for Transport's report earlier that Thurrock Council receives the maximum level of funding for road maintenance from the government, I understand that again there is not the budget for proper resurfacing of Caledonian Way this year, and we must wait to see if funding is available for next year. On behalf of the residents that have signed the petition, I encourage the Cabinet to fund this essential resurfacing work for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to go back to item 5, only I was trying to hurry up somewhat, so I missed out. I would like to take a moment to remember the fallen of World War II on page 7 of the agenda. October 1941, Rendell Kenneth Lewis. Dryden John A. McCann Joseph. November 1941, Thomas Cyril D. Baldick George A. Aho George W.W. Update report in respect of those petitions presented at Council and Council offices. This report can be found on pages 11 to 12 of the agenda and is information on the status of petitions handed in at the Council meeting and Council offices. Appointments to committees and outside bodies and statutory other panels. Councillor Glenhill, do you wish to make any further changes to appointments? No, Councillor Kent. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Massey. Assistant Director of Children's Social Care and Elderly Help appointment. Councillor Geddle, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 13 to 16?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to bring this report to members for approval and for Janet to become the Assistant Director of Children's Social Care and Early Help. This recruitment was conducted in-house rather than go out through the normal recruitment agencies. Doing so still attracted a lot of interest from many very good candidates indeed, but it also saved money in the process. For those who do not know Janet, she's a very experienced, skilled and passionate advocate for the vulnerable children and young people. Janet has worked with vulnerable children in social services care for over 20 years now. She's worked in London, across counties and indeed up and down the country. We're very fortunate that Janet chose to join us in Thurrock in January 2018. She joined us as the strategic lead for Looks After Children and also covering the strategic lead role for child protection and children in need. Janet has been a key member of the Children's Services team who led the service from requires improvement Ofsted judgment in 2016 to the good inspection in November 2019. And indeed, everyone will remember it was very, very close to being outstanding. Also led recently on the successful Ofsted focus visit in July. The Ofsted reports have also reflected that Janet's leadership, where achieving great outcomes for children and young people, are at the centre of all the work that she does, which has got to be commended. I know that she'll continue to lead the team through the coming years into an outstanding next Ofsted, as we deliver great services to some of our most vulnerable residents in society. So with that, Madam Mayor, I move the report.
Thank you. Councillor Kent, do you wish to speak? Councillor Byrne, do you wish? Councillor Massey?
Thank you to the stakeholder panel, the external members especially, the stakeholder panel. A big thanks to them in the recruitment process. And it's really nice to see that where the internal process has worked through recruitment as well, without going out to an external body and saving some money. So, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any member wish to speak on the report? Councillor Johnson, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Subject to agreement here this evening, obviously, I'd be very pleased to welcome Janet to her role as Assistant Director of Children's Services and Early Help. As the leader said, she's been here in Thurrock for almost 4 years, with the last 6 months as the interim AD. And as he also said, you've been an integral part of our vision during this, when the team moved from requires improvement to good across all areas. The actual interview process involved members of the General Services Committee, officers and service partners, including some Thurrock Looked After Children, and took place between the final 2 candidates, and I must say that both were of the highest quality. It was important, or is important, that we engage a permanent AD as soon as possible, as despite the service being rated good, there is still plenty to do. And I'm confident that with her local knowledge, Janet will continue that journey from a running start. There is a shortage of placements, including fostering placements for young people with complex needs, and the costs are spiralling for residential placements, with costs forecast to rise by almost 100% to over £6,000 a week. Not quite out of control, but we do need some innovative thinking here in Thurrock, and I'm confident that Janet is the right person to help deliver placements that are commissioned by Thurrock and to seek the creation of an Ofsted registered home right here in Thurrock, which should assist us in stabilising or even reducing these costs. So I hope you'll all join me in welcoming Janet to this role.
Councillor Coxon. All right, okay. Councillor Gledhill, do you wish to sum up?
Councillor Massey has stolen my words, and that was to thank all of those on the stakeholder panel, including those looked after children that took part. Really, really grateful for their input and their insight in this. But with that, Madam Mayor, I move the report as written.
I will proceed to the recommendation. Is any member in disagreement with this recommendation? Councillor Massey. Oh, you agree? You wanted me up. Agree. Item 11, Political Assistant. Councillor Gledhill, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 17 to 20?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I'll try to keep this as short as possible. Indeed, I'll probably cut out half of what I was going to say, as I know all members would have read the report. But as this borough evolves more and more opportunities and threats arise from the success that we've seen and from other sources. Whether it be the fantastic Freeport, the Towns Funds Awards, or the not so great changes in legislation, additional guidance from government to our officers in the way that we have to deliver services, all of these combined put us at a slight risk of not being up to date with all the information that we need to hand. Now, our officers do an exceptionally good job in supporting elected members and informing them of what's happening. And for that I can be grateful, but there is only so much they can do. They cannot enter into the world of politics. This is the only role which allows that to happen. What I do not want Thurrock to do is to miss out on some of the detail of things that are coming our way, which puts us at risk and also means officers are spending time doing something that we may not be able to do in a year or 2 years in the future. That's just a waste of taxpayers' money. This political assistance role for both the groups, both the main groups, my apologies, Madam Mayor, will help to ensure that safety net is there. Indeed, recently, had it not been for a chance conversation I had with other council leaders, we may well have missed the fact that the new Environment Bill will stop local authorities from charging for certain bin collections. Something that if we'd gone down that route, obviously through Councillor Jeffries as a portfolio holder and the Cabinet not wishing to do so, but had we done so, we would have been in trouble, if not this year, next year. So I'm not going to waste the Chamber's time with labelling point after point to justify these particular roles. Those of us with enough service will know the invaluable input that they gave to each group in the past. And as the borough faces change as it goes forward and more challenges, I feel now is the right time to reintroduce this role and give the support to the two main groups as required. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kent, do you wish to speak?
Madam Mayor, we heard from the Leader of the Council an hour and a half ago, telling us that he believed that somewhere in the region of 300 members of council staff would be losing their jobs in an effort to plug the £34 million black hole. I think that bringing forward a recommendation to appoint political assistants for the two largest political groups at an estimated cost of circa £100,000 is the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. I think this is insensitive in the extreme, and we will not be supporting it.
Councillor Bird?
I'm all right. Yeah, just what Councillor Kent has just said it all. How can we justify 100k? If there is a return on it that Councillor Gledhill can tell me, then obviously I'll support it, but I cannot see any value in this 100,000 when we're going to lose 500 people. It's just a disgrace. I'm surprised he's even had stood up and actually said it.
Councillor Massey, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Much like the colleagues to the right of me, I haven't got a problem with this at all. I think the timing, though, it's not great timing with things that are going on in the council and wider area at the moment, and maybe it should be deferred for a future meeting.
Councillor Gledhill, do you wish to sum up?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll keep it.
Sorry, sorry. Would any member like to speak on the report? Sorry. Councillor Warren.
Madam Mayor, I just think now's not the time. We've just last week we had corporate overview and scrutiny saying that we've got an unbalanced budget. There's a £4 million hole in the budget, £35 million worth of savings, and then I can't stand here tonight and say that this is the time that we should be self-serving ourselves at the same time as we're getting somebody to sign off redundancy consultation notices. Maybe in the future when things are back on an even keel, but I don't think tonight we should even be thinking about serving ourselves up with a political assistant, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to disagree. I think that the timing is perfect. We know that the senior officers have a lot on their plate now to deal with the budget that we have in place. This will take the burden off of them and will allow them to concentrate on what they're good at doing. At this present moment in time, those political posts will help us no end and take the burden off of the senior officers. Thank you.
Councillor Poppy.
That's okay, you can only run so fast. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think that at this time, this really isn't the way forward. I think this is something that when we're talking about the kind of budget cuts and the type of job losses that we are, it's just not appropriate. I would also point out that Cabinet recently agreed a 100k cut from the frontline environment team. So that was like almost 4 full-time posts and a van that this money could have paid for. So I do think we need to be prioritising frontline workers, keeping our streets clean, and all of the other really important services that councils offer to residents themselves.
Councillor Hebb.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Johnson actually sort of stole my thunder on this one. Page 18, section 3.3 actually articulates for me the crux of the matter. In short, senior leaders within this organisation are now going to be expected to lead more operationally, and the policy support that we have had, some benefit of over the years will simply not be available in a leaner organisation. And for anyone who sort of works in lean organisations will know that to be true. There was a question that was asked, or a point that was raised just a moment ago about, is this the right time? What's the return on investment? Well, I happen to be with Councillor Gledhill at that particular conversation, and when the discussion around the Environment Bill come out, there was actually a number of group leaders across this country who we were talking to that were particularly anxious about the fact that they've now got £1 million pressure or whatever it happens to be hurtling down the tracks because of a change to a feed-in charges policy around brown bin collections. So the return on investment, frankly, is had this sort of resource been in place, then frankly it would intercept and prevent a pressure of £1 million being introduced into the base. So in some regard, that is that answers the point, but Councillor Johnson pretty much made the point I was going to make.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There were just some comments previously about, £100,000 worth of cuts, frontline services. Made it abundantly clear at ONS, and when I've spoken about this, these are about cost savings, these are about efficiencies, these are about using machinery, this is about a better way of working. This is not about cutting staff to the tune of £200,000.
No one else? No. Councillor Gledhill, would you like to sum up?
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will make it very, very quick. Of course, it just seems only Thurrock Labour would complain about us creating jobs at the same time. That we're complaining that we're cutting jobs. It's a very odd situation in which to be. Every time this is put forward or suggested at any level, it's always never the right time. But actually, do you know what? Now is the right time. Thurrock is evolving. Thurrock is moving forward. And with that needs the right level of support for those that are making those decisions, or indeed challenging those decisions and being able to do so effectively and coherently, not just jump on a bandwagon or say no to everything. So with that, Madam Mayor, I move recommendations as outlined in the report.
I will now proceed to the recommendation. Is any member in disagreement of the recommendation made? There, those in agreement. Recommendations carried. Right, item 12, to receive the report from the Cabinet Member. Councillor Duffin, as Cabinet Member for Central Services, would you please introduce your report? This report can be found on pages 21 to 38 of the agenda.
Has this been a long evening? Is that on? as it's been a long evening, I'm happy just to present as read. I'm sure members will have read it, and we can move along rather than making a long speech.
Councillor Kent, as shadow portfolio holder, do you have any questions to ask the portfolio holder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When does the portfolio holder expect the civic offices to fully reopen to the public?
So I don't have an exact timeline for the reopening. There's some work being done, and that will happen soon. I will speak to officers and get an exact date and email it to you tomorrow.
Councillor Kent, do you have any further questions to ask?
Madam Mayor, when we read the report, page 64 gives me some concern. It says, we aim to build on the success of working without the full face-to-face customer services offering in civic offices and are reviewing our face-to-face service delivery model. Given that the South East Local Enterprise Partnership estimates that 22% of Thurrock residents experience some kind of digital deprivation or exclusion, can you give an absolute assurance that residents will still be able to come into the council to discuss their concerns and issues face-to-face with real people?
There's not a page 64, so where are you referring to in the report?
Sorry,
38.
page 24. Sorry, slip of the tongue, page 24.
So there's still going to be staff on hand at the council to support people, because obviously, as we all know, as councillors, that the library will be going into council building, so there will still be staff on hand to support. So there's still staff going to be there because we're going to support people, and no, it's not doors closed, no one's going to help out. There is still going to be staff on hand, but we are supporting digitalisation, because the more stuff that can be done online, the more saving, that's more money that we can then put to other areas and to better use.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I turn to communications and the new communication strategy? When this was brought by Councillor Duffin to Cabinet in September, the decision was that the strategy wouldn't then be endorsed. Councillor Duffin had some concerns. He said it had headed in the right direction, but there was still some way to go until it was complete. He said that Thurrock needed to improve its partnership that it had with external bodies and asked for officers to engage more with local and national media before the agreement of the strategy by Cabinet. He stated that once this work had been completed, the strategy would be brought back before Cabinet for that sign-off. Unfortunately, the following Cabinet meeting in October was cancelled. Therefore, the decision to agree the communication strategy was made by the Leader of the Council. Can I just ask Councillor Duffin to outline the changes that were made to that strategy in order to satisfy his concerns?
Thank you very much, Councillor Kent. So we wrote to editors and asked for feedback, and we received in total one reply within the time frame, and that was from the Editor-in-Chief of NewsQuest South East, with very positive feedback. I'll just read a passage for you here. Clearly, with such an ambitious agenda for change, it was great to see a specific section on multi-platform campaigns. The strategy is refreshing in that people are at the heart of it, affecting behaviour change, neighbourhood pride, and ensuring residents are kept informed on future investment, initiatives and strategic development. I think trusted local media in particular is in a great position to help drive this forward. I welcome the commitment to collaborate and to build a better Thurrock. This is an exciting strand of the strategy, one which we would all embrace. So it was really good to reach out. We gave members of the media the opportunity. One replied within time, one replied just after time. Some of the feedback was more about day-to-day things, which isn't what's actually in the strategy, but 100% positive referral from media partners that actually responded was fantastic to see. So great to see that, and unfortunately we didn't get a meeting, but really happy you brought it out because I was able to read that. Thank you.
Councillor Kent. No. Councillor Little, as Chair of Corporate Review and Scrutiny Committee. Would you like to speak?
Considering the time and time restraints this evening, no, because I think I've spoken enough this evening, and as Councillor Duffin has already said, I'm sure we can all read. I would have read with great interest his report. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Councillor Duffin, speak up very quickly. The LGA peer review, your report was very critical of the council related to the You also raised concern of cabinet and asked the director and team to come back with a refreshed report. I don't think that happened. The question is, why does TBC require such levels of secrecy and against openness and transparency with the press and also very much so with members' questions? Thank you.
So what I actually asked of officers is to go back, speak to the media and get feedback. And it was 100% positive feedback that we received from the media. So what more can you ask for? I didn't ask for a new report, I asked for a statement, and within the time we saw one person respond and it was positive. So it was great to see that, and it's what we'll continue to do working with our partners.
Councillor Massey, do you wish to speak? No? Are there any further questions? We've got Councillor Apothecary.
I think you know what I'm about to ask. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Duffin, thank you for your report. Can you now confirm, are you confirming, is what you've just said, that the Grey Central Library will be moving into the civic offices? Can you now confirm that decision has been taken by this administration? And do you think it's appropriate to assume that professional library staff who have a job, who have a proper job that they have to do, should be picking up the slack because you don't want to employ people to do customer services?
So it's currently an option that is floated. I've probably slightly jumped the gun there and I apologise. It's not just there will be staff within the building, but we are looking at everything because we want more support to be available, whether it's over the phone, whether it's online, because ideally the quicker the response comes to the residents, the better, and if that's done through technology rather than through face-to-face meetings, then it's certainly the direction we'd like to see moved. And we're not saying that's 100% one-stop, that you can only do online, you can only do over the phone. We want to offer the best support to residents and get them the answers they want as quickly as possible.
Councillor Kerring.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duffin, for your report. With regard to the civic offices that will open in early 2022, can you tell us now whether it's going to be brought in within budget? Because if so, it would be a very nice surprise.
So, I'm getting nods of yes. I don't run Regen, but I'm hearing yes. Obviously, we've got exciting building developments that Councillor Spillman's working on. So, more council houses as well. So, yeah, exciting news coming forward.
Councillor Duffin, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you very much.
Questions from members. We have up to 30 minutes for this item there. Where no questions to the leader and 7 questions to cabinet members. They can also be found on pages 39 to 40 of the agenda. These questions not dealt with at this meeting, the member to whom the question is addressed shall provide a written answer as soon as practicable after the meeting. I would ask those members who have submitted questions to read out their questions when asked to do so. Question 1 from Councillor Okonodi to Councillor Mainley.
Thank you for allowing me to ask this question. Yes, Ross Road, Church Road, Dunlop Road, Adelaide Road, Leicester Road, Park Avenue, the beaches and surrounding roads, as well as side roads along the Dock Road in Tilbury are worn and deteriorated and have been reported on numerous occasions. Due to the lack of attention, these roads have deteriorated even further. Is the portfolio holder able to ensure that these roads are inspected for structural problems and that necessary repairs are made?
Councillor Manley, please respond to the question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Okanadi, for your question. Let me assure Councillor Okanadi that all the roads you referred to are regularly inspected already. In the case of Dock Road, it's inspected every 2 months, and the others are inspected annually, unless there is a cause to inspect them sooner following a complaint or something like that. So they are already subject to regular inspections, as I say. It's accepted that they're cosmetically poor, they don't look very nice, but in actual fact, they don't meet intervention levels. As I said during my presentation earlier, we have quite clear policies that we worked on things like this, and they don't meet, they haven't deteriorated to the level that we're required to intervene at this time. Of course, if potholes or defects appear, we will respond to them and fill them and repair them as and when that happens. But in terms of this year's capital programme, there won't be any substantial works or repairs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Okanadi, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Manley, for your answer. I don't know when you visited Tilbury last, but I'm just asking you, and I'm only making a simple request that we get your commitment at least to perhaps go with your officers to inspect these roads. I mean, the roads has been listed, and you only just have to go with your officers and see. They're not just cosmetic; they're really, really bad. And people need to, would like to take pride in where they live, and it's not just about cosmetic. It needs, it's about road safety as well. So I would really, I'm begging you to maybe take time and visit Tilbury and look around these roads. Thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please don't beg. It's not necessary. Look, if it pleases you, I'll ask officers to have a look. I'm happy to go. Perhaps you could join us, and we'll have a jamboree. We'll have a walk around. I'm quite happy to do that. I have to say, I mean, we'll take a look. We'll respond to any defects, but I have to keep coming back to this point. We prioritise works according to policies that we as members set. Officers don't set them, we set them, and we can't then complain when repairs don't happen in accordance with the rules that we set. And officers are quite clear, and I have to take their professional judgment on this, because it is a professional judgment. It's not for members to go around, I'd love to pick roads. Trust me, every Conservative ward will be having road resurfaced left, right and centre, but I could go around deciding which roads got done, starting with Blackshots Lane. But, as I say, there are clear policies, clear criteria that we have to adhere to, and these roads are cosmetically poor. They don't look very nice, but they are serviceable. But I'm happy to arrange a visit. You say these have been reported many times. I mean, I know there's various ways people can report things, but just looking at the information we have, I have to say the level of complaints from those roads in relation to carriageway defects are actually quite low, with the exception of Dock Road, where there's been 8. In all the other roads combined, it's single figures. So I think the residents who live there, if they are unhappy with the state of the roads, quite where these many complaints are going, I don't know, but they're not coming to us. I don't believe there have been any, this municipal year, there have been no inquiries from ward councillors on those roads either. But as I say, more than happy to arrange some visits. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Okanadi, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, just to thank Councillor Manley for agreeing to visit, and I'll be obliged, I would be happy to attend whenever you want to visit. And I just want to also mention that it has been reported time and time, and it's been many, many years that, that the inspection, whether they attended or not, that coming back to say it's cosmetic. But please, thank you for agreeing to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Question 2 from Councillor Okanadi to Councillor Mays.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, I forgot to say, please read out your question as set out on page 39 of the agenda.
Yes, thank you. As popular holder responsible for air quality, if you agree that dust pollution is a significant problem that has a negative impact on the health and welfare of Tilbury residents, how are you working with the Environment Agency to tackle dust pollution in Tilbury?
Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. In terms of what I agree with versus what I don't agree with, I find that a disappointing thing coming from all the conversations we've had on that, especially over the years. The reality is this has been tested by the Environmental Agency themselves over a period of time. That has been shared with the Public Health Team. The Public Health Team have said in their professional opinion, being the experts, that it is not damaging to health. Now, whether we agree with that or not, I'm not a medical expert, neither are yourself, so we have to take their word on that. But in terms of working with the Environmental Agency, it isn't just the Environmental Agency, actually it's Port Tilbury, Port Health and the Environmental Agency that the Council continues to work with, and we will share information to make sure that that we're all up to date and we all know what the latest data is. And especially once we get the new Air Quality Officer, we'll be able to work with them a lot better with an actual expert within the Council.
Councillor Kennedy, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Maney. You remember that we had a meeting amongst ourselves, councillors, in July about this issue. Because I do know, and it is understandable that you do not have a magic wand to just wish away these air quality issues. I do understand that, obviously. So I would just would like you to, if you can undertake that you will be identifying and working with all relevant agencies. You've mentioned some of them. I mean, to do everything that is required in tackling this problem. And as you know, it's not just, we cannot just accept that it doesn't affect health. We cannot, because nobody can say that, because sometimes things happen in years later that some people get affected by something that they exposed them, where they have been exposed to. And I just would like to also ask the portfolio holder that if you continue to work with the rest of the Tilbury councillors on this issue and be responsive to our request for information, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mikes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your supplementary. I found that quite a useful meeting. I think we're bearing in mind the importance of this to residents, and it was a shame it took us so long to get to that position, because actually it shouldn't have. This is why I'm so passionate about getting this air quality officer, because once we do a full air quality and ambient air review, we'll be able to know a lot more, so then the public health experts will have a lot more data to work with. So therefore, that's the importance of it, and I'll obviously continue to keep everybody in the loop.
Councillor Kennedy, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question? No? Thank you. Oops. Question 3 from Councillor Byrne to Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. The Council minimises the amount of pesticides used twice yearly weed spraying. Unfortunately, pesticides are essential in controlling weeds that would, if not treated, cause damage to the highway infrastructure. Contractors and staff undertaking the application of weed control are fully trained and take every precaution to minimise the impact on wildlife. This includes control measures of washing out applicators and disposal of the used containers. Glyphosate is licensed pesticide in the UK, and regulators including in the US, European Food Agency, European Chemicals Agency all support the conclusion that the glyphosate-based products are safe when used as directed, and that it is not carcinogenic.
Councillor Byrne, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes. The World Health Organization, the German Institute for Risk Assessment, the European Chemical Association say it's carcinogenic. It causes serious eye damage, toxic to aquatic life, evidence of lung, heart and bowel disease, linked to Parkinson's and birth defects. So I challenge what you've just said.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really. We can all have experts, and we can all quote different experts. You know, I'm listening to offers, and I'm listening to what I see here. What I would say though is, interestingly, in the Guardian newspaper, which I'm not particularly fond of reading, the biggest impact of glyphosate on bees is the destruction of wildflowers on which they depend. We're planting more wildflowers. That's what we're going to do. We don't kill wildflowers when we're doing this. Evidence to date suggests direct toxicity to bees is fairly low. So, Guardian newspaper.
Councillor Byrne, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question?
Hello. Yeah, we could be here all day, couldn't we? But the councils agreeing that it should be banned are Hackney, Glastonbury, Brighton, Hammersmith and Fulham, Cowes, Isle of Wight, Manchester, Cambridge, Scottish Islands, Lyme Regis, Greater London Authority, Colchester, Londonderry, Shetland, Lambeth, Faversham, Edinburgh, Liverpool, South, Sunderland, Manningtree, Reading, Bath, Chichester and Folkestone, and even Somerset. So they are all the councils that totally disagree with you. So yeah, we agree to differ. My experts say we're killing Thurrock.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. And if you visited any of those areas, you'd probably find weeds up to your, armpits, because they're not actually killing them. I recently went to Brighton, and I'd hardly hold up Brighton Council as a, an expert on anything. I mean, apart from the fact they've got weeds growing everywhere, they've got rubbish everywhere because they've got a bin strike they can't settle. So, and homeless people everywhere. So, I really do think Council should be careful about what he quotes as being experts, because if you visit those areas, they're not exactly very tidy.
Right. Question 4 to Councillor Byrne. Question 4 from Councillor Byrne to Councillor Hebb. Councillor Byrne, please read out your question as set out on page 39 of the agenda.
I'll leave this again.
No, I'm not. I'm going to speed it up, Councillor Hebb. The actual figure that I've quoted, 12.5, is actually 9.6, which is less than we pay for a portfolio holder to look after the arts. Basically, last week I contacted you, asked you about questions, and I sent you a very long email, and you said you were going to come back to me. So my love of the arts totally outweighs throwing 3 curveball questions at you. So I'm going to rely on you to come back, because it's a lot more than just the Thames side. It's a lot more than about funding. It's about the arts all over Thurrock. So I would rather you come back with questions than me just give you 3 curveball questions. So thank you.
Councillor Hebb, please respond to the question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I will just because Councillor Byrne does raise a point that perhaps isn't widely understood or widely known. And why should it be? There is a simple answer to the difference. So Thurrock is responsible for a range of sports pitches across the borough. And that value of 184k is spent on staff costs, machinery maintenance and any relevant gardening material to maintain those green spaces across the borough. And the slight difference between the types of funding is that there is no funding specifically for pitch maintenance from external bodies. Although we have applied for pitch improvement funding, so that's obviously more capital orientated than day-to-day revenue. We've always been clear as an administration that tidying this borough up was part of our objective after 6 years of neglect, and forms part of the widely recognised Clean It, Cut It, Fill It campaign. And the pitches are obviously used for formalised club groups, as well as providing people with a free point of access recreation activity for all ages. Something I'm sure we agree is good for different groups all across the borough. In regards to the arts, there is, in terms of the arts and the figures that we just spoke about, this is direct funding for the council, and it doesn't include the self-funding production, so there are some of the conversations we've had this evening. And subject to approval, in terms of that budget, it's expected to remain again next year. But unlike sports pitches, there are substantially more opportunities for the arts to draw on external funding. And so the emphasis moves less on how do we maintain assets or fields of grass, sports pitches, but to how we unlock that funding for the arts. Just to illustrate, Thurrock has secured £180,000 from the Creative Estuary programme for a project specifically designed to design cultural spaces and facilities into the Purfleet-on-Thames regeneration scheme. And worthy of note is that this direct funding opportunities, that there are direct funding opportunities from the council in terms of revenue funding through the voluntary sector development fund and capital orientated stuff with the community environmental development fund. Wider arts organisations can obviously access those sources. Happy to help point that out. But just a figure that I thought, or something that I thought might be helpful for anyone who's got the same sort of passion that we're both talking about, is that Thurrock CVS are actually a really good service at supporting local groups in applying for bids and helping them structure a competent, capable bid that will go through and hopefully be measured and awarded accordingly. We all know what their website is. I won't read that out to you. We know who the Thurrock CVS are. I hope this answers. Happily have the chat, like I said, offline, but I thought in case people were wondering about the arts and stuff, I thought I might as well share it. So.
Councillor Byrne, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
It's not really a question, but to say sports pitches, that is the stage for sport, and actually performing arts is the stage for performing arts, but you're going to take away a stage, but you're not going to take away those football pitches.
Councillor Hill.
Just to clarify, I don't know if that's working again, in regards to funding for the arts, I mentioned the Community Economic Development Fund and the VCF. Just a few figures here that may be of interest, and again, there's not stuff that any of us would expect us to know off the top of our heads. Cherrywood Scouts have been afforded over £10,000, Thurrock Play Network over £70,000, Chapel St Mary's Scouts £34,000, Martial Arts Group £7,000, Tilbury Band £5,500. So there is grant money out there that is being attracted, is being won by valuable assets and groups in our borough, which bring a lot of enjoyment to all of us socially. But let's carry on talking, and we'll see how we can help support those organisations further unlock. And I know Councillor Hewlin and I have had a conversation offline about how we can support that a bit further.
Councillor Byrne, do you wish to propose a second supplement? No? Thank you. Question 5 from Councillor Chuckawalla. I think I said that right. To Councillor Mays.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Chuckawalla, can you please read out your questions set out on page 39 of the agenda?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. What additional measures have you put in place to reduce the surge of COVID cases in our schools?
Councillor May.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. In terms of measures put in place, on the 12th of October, the Director of Public Health and the Corporate Director of Children's Services wrote to all Thurrock schools in response to a rise in cases among the 11 to 18-year-olds. This letter outlined a number of measures in line with national guidance, including testing, face coverings and cohorting of groups. Local guidance in the letter also suggested that where necessary in outbreak situations, additional measures could additionally be implemented on an individual school basis at the school's discretion, but in agreement with the public health setting lead. Where the school can identify close contacts or siblings of positive cases, they should be immediately asked to that cohort to remain off school and obtain a PCR test 3 to 5 days after contact with the positive student/case. The student should remain at home until the result of the PCR test have been received and can return to school if it is negative.
Councillor Chakma, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Mayes. You know, there was a sharp increase of COVID infection in our schools in Thurrock. That was in October. If I may ask you, do you know the actual figure of how many of the children were infected?
Councillor Mayes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for your supplementary. I have the rate of infection, not actually the amount of students. It's actually the rate of infection was as of the 15th of October was 1,197 per 100,000. So obviously considerably high. However, that has fallen down as of the 11th of 2021 to 230 over 100. Obviously, we want to reduce infections as much as possible, which is why we had the vaccination rollout as well at schools run by the school vaccination service, of which sadly only 31% of students aged 12 to 15 did take up. So we need to encourage as many young people and of course all residents to take up the vaccine as quickly as possible.
Councillor Chakma, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your response, Councillor Mayes. Another question I want to ask is what is the latest guidance on mandatory vaccination for care homes in England?
Councillor Mayes.
That's not a substantive question, and obviously if we're talking about care homes, that would be potentially aimed at my colleague in charge of adult social care as well. So unfortunately,
I think it's about COVID.
In the substantive item.
Right, question 6 from Councillor Rigby to Councillor Mainley. Councillor Rigby, please read out your questions set out on page 40 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of Civic Ward, please would the portfolio holder for highways and transport explain what highway works repairs have taken place in the past 3 years, including, but not limited, to all pavement repairs, reconstructions, road repairs and surfacing work, street column replacements and bus shelter replacements.
Councillor Mainley, please respond to the question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Rigby, for your question. I'm happy to report that in no small part, thanks to your diligent representation of your ward, there have been a number of highways repairs and investments in Stifford Clays. There's actually been, in the time period that you asked in relation to, there's been 355 reactive maintenance repairs. And in addition, there's been 19 street lighting repairs, 12 lamp column replacements, 7 capital funded carriageway resurfacing schemes, including in Cremerville Street, Long Lane, Whitmore Avenue and St Anne's Close. And also we're spending money, again, as I said in my report, this administration slab replacement policy has allowed us to get rid of some of that really old, unsightly, unsafe slab footway that we have in the borough, and your ward has benefited from that. The roads included Stifford Clays Road, Cremerville Street, Kingsman Drive, Leaseway and Long Lane. And in addition, we've replaced 2 new bus shelters in Stifford Clays outside Heaton Hall and Thurrock Hospital. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rigby, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I'm pleased to see that Civic has received its fair share of the highways and transport investment, and I will continue to campaign for more going forward. One notable achievement this year has been the introduction of the average speed camera safety system in Lodge Lane. Please would the portfolio holder advise what the early benefits of this scheme have been?
Councillor Mainley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your supplemental question. Another thing I know you've taken a great interest in is the average speed camera check system, and you were instrumental in lobbying me for that, so I know it's something very close to your heart. The scheme hasn't been in sufficiently long for us to get a full picture of the benefits. What I can tell you is in the first year prior to the scheme going live, there were 5 accidents in Lodge Lane, including 1 serious personal injury accident. So far this year, there have been just 2 minor accidents. We also know that prior to the scheme going live, speed studies were showing that about 44% of motorists were driving in excess of 35 miles an hour. We know that Lodge Lane has a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. So a considerable number of motorists were breaching the speed limit, and residents in Yorwall, particularly the avenues that adjoin Lodge Lane, were concerned about safety issues, hence your heavy involvement in lobbying for this scheme. What we know from the other average speed camera system we have in the east of the borough is that compliance with the speed limit was 65% prior to the scheme going live, so again, quite a lot of motorists who weren't complying. That now stands at 96% compliance, and we have no reason to believe that we won't see a similar trend in Lodge Lane. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rigby, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question? Question 7, Councillor Maney. Councillor Kemp, please read out your questions set out on page 40 of the agenda.
How many net tonnes of carbon were emitted by Thurrock Council in the calendar years 2019 and 2020?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. In 2019-20, the total annual net emissions was 5,491 tonnes of carbon. This was down from 6,150 tonnes of carbon in 2018-19 and 8,005 in the baseline year of 2013-14. The figures for the total annual net emissions for 2021 are not yet available. Official figures are expected to be published in January 2022.
Councillor Kent, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This council declared climate emergency when it met in October 2019. Can I ask the portfolio holder when he thinks that the carbon management plan and the climate local plan will finish the reviews that are currently underway? When we expect to see those going through scrutiny onto Cabinet?
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kent. Unfortunately, I'm not actually responsible for what you're asking. I believe it's Councillor Mays. However, I have just got a couple of points I'd like to make when it comes to carbon emission, just to really inform members more than anything. This administration, we've got enforcement officers using vehicles that are electric, reducing their carbon footprint. We had an investment in a solar power farm, something which you opposed. It was the equivalent of Thurrock being powered 2 times over. All street lights have been changed to more environmentally friendly LED lights. This was proposed by a very young, fresh-faced Councillor Gledhill. Something which you didn't put into place, but gladly when he became leader, slightly older, he did implement. The new council offices, which again,
and he invests in solar farms.
I can't anyway, it doesn't matter. The new, it's just mumbling as it's been all council meetings, just mumbles. The new council offices being built opposite this building will also reduce our carbon footprint, something you opposed. Finally, just one thing, the Thames side, which has been debated a lot in this meeting today, is one of the most unfriendly environmental buildings that we have in the borough.
Councillor Kent, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question?
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm pleased that from the 2013-14 baseline there appears to have been something like a 30% decrease in carbon emitted by the council. That is to be welcomed. I remind Councillor Jeffries that actually LED street lights were introduced by the previous Labour administration with cross-party support, great ratio. Can I just ask when we agreed 2019, the climate emergency, we did agree that as budget proposals came forward, there would be a carbon assessment alongside them. Can I have an assurance that is happening this year?
Councillor Duffin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I can give the Council that assurance.
Right, item 14, reports from members representing the Council on outside bodies. Does any member who represents the Council on outside bodies wish to present a report? Minutes of committees, sorry. They are listed on the agenda contents page. Motions update report. The next item can be found on page 41 of the agenda and is an update on the ongoing motion to Council. Motion 1. Councillor Fletcher, do you wish to comment? Councillor Renshaw, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We put a motion in about a wood on just before COVID came in, and we've heard nothing since. So could the relevant officers get in touch, please? Thank you.
Okay. Right. Motion 1. Councillor Fletcher, do you wish to propose and to speak on to your motion as printed on page 43 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Testing. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would. I would like to propose my motion, and my apologies if you can't hear me. I'll try and speak a little bit louder, but I'll wait for that to the yes, so we've spoken a little bit earlier on this evening about the importance of communities taking ideas forward, particularly those ideas of viable. Comments from Councillor Stevens I very much agree with. And I'd like to sort of pick up on that point as regards Grange Water's outdoor centre. I'm assured this actually works now. No? Did it not work? So yeah, I'd like to speak a little bit about the centre, just to explain why I feel quite passionately we should be looking to preserve this particular community asset. I think people are aware of the fabulous work that's been done by the centre with local school children and also with school children from outside the borough, students from outside the borough. But perhaps some of us, and I certainly have to say that I myself wasn't quite aware of how wide-ranging the community activities are that Grange Water supports. I had a phone call today with a member of the Thurrock Angling Club. I hadn't appreciated that they've been there for 53 years. Not all the individual members of the club. And that they're a pretty flourishing club, over 400 members, and a waiting list of about 500, because it's a good site. It's a club that attracts a lot of interest, a lot of attention, and it's self-sustaining. Similarly, the Thurrock Yacht Club uses the centre as a safe place to teach its members safety. Obviously, the wrong place to go out and do that is actually out in the estuary. If they weren't able to use Grange Waters, they would struggle to find somewhere of a similar standard anywhere near. And I think there are various other activities that I can reel off. We have the forestry courses, we have the archers, not a bunch of people you want to get on the wrong side of. And the residential centres. We also have, I haven't appreciated that the centre is used, the lake is used for open water training for the triathletes. So I mean, there's hardly
hardly an activity, an outdoor activity that Grange Water can't offer something to. And it's not simply that it serves a valuable purpose to the community, it actually does so in a self-sustaining manner. Even during last year, when COVID was obviously hitting a lot of activities, the centre still managed to come in at net zero cost, or around net zero cost. In a good year, it's better. And it does so partly because of its reputation, because of the fact that it offers something that that very few other, my apologies, this is the first time I've put a motion, so I'm tending to disappear on my own backside for a moment, but it offers something that is pretty well unique in the east of England, and from here into London. There are really very few other facilities of a similar standard operate in a similar manner, which is why we get interest from schools in other boroughs and from schools across the east of England. And I'm reliably informed by the centre that were we to be able to market more effectively our services, we'd actually be able to increase those services and actually increase the amount of income coming in. So as a centre, it's not just an important community hub, it's also one that's, as I think we were talking about earlier on this evening, that's self-sustaining, that doesn't cost the council to keep running, and that, beyond that, improves the council's reputation, builds a really good sense of our contribution to health and well-being that goes well beyond the council, that goes well beyond the borough. So really what I'd like to say, and I hope I haven't mangled it too far so far, I'd like to say that in looking at this facility, there really is no downside to it. It's not a difficult decision. I would like this chamber to support this proposal, to look at ways of working with the centre, not to shut it, not to sell it, but to maximise the wonderful possibilities of this important community hub. Thank you very much for your time.
Is that seconded? Gary Byrne, Councillor Byrne. Would you like to speak or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate? Right. Does any other member wish to comment on the motion? Councillor Councillor? Do you want to speak? You put your hand up.
I thought I'd speak getting late instead of waiting. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding here of how the 3 R's work, and which come in when we say it's a presumption of release to everything unless we want to use them. Now, with what we think, what this item is coming out over the summer, it's coming out to close. There's no plans at this stage to close this administrator there. What we're saying is that it's a facility that should we be running a facility where we're looking at that. How should we work that? And it's good practice to look at all facilities and what we're doing. This is going through that, and that's why we've mentioned it. I understand the concerns there. I've personally been there a few times over the last few years, walking around swimming fishing clubs, seeing the yachting clubs, and it's how that works together. And I'm glad that now we've seen the Thurrock Yacht Club is now started finally using it instead of going somewhere else out of the borough. Would be helpful. So we've got some better facilities there, but it does need improving. I don't like the way you come into Buttles Lane through it. It's not the most welcoming way. How is the way only day? And I think what we need to do is look at it. And this is what this proposal come out in July, was look at where we are, what the facilities are we doing, what should the council be doing, can they do? We've had this mentioned in Thameside before. Thameside, I think we all agreed here, was better run by the community. And a theatre's better run. And I just think the same thing applies here as well. What we do need is, at this point, I can categorically say there's no facility to actually close that. And we do want to open the conversations with a wide range of people across the borough to make sure, and across the country, how can they run it? Because the council's should be good at collecting bills, picking up your roads, making sure the roads and don't fall over that. I don't think the council's good at running the sports facilities. It doesn't. The last administration, many years ago, in
2001, we stopped, our sports facilities are run by Impulse Leisure, an outside body. I think the same applies here.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I echo everything that Councillor Coxon just said, so I think it really just leaves me to maybe get rid of a few myths around this place. 400 members of the fishing club, well, I hope they don't all turn up to fish at once, because they certainly wouldn't fit around those lakes. The yacht club, as Councillor Coxon said, they've only just started using Grangewater because they can't use Stubbers anymore. Now, I'm a portfolio holder for education. I'm not going to mention the school's names, but I've spoken to several head teachers who have quite categorically said they would not use that place. It is not fit for purpose. All right? So that's something we have to take into, I'm thinking of that when they tell me those things. You say it doesn't cost anything. Well, it doesn't on a day-to-day basis, but it will start costing us something. So the question remains, and I think with the answers there, this is not a statutory duty that we have to run this facility, and I don't think we can run it properly. We need to listen to anyone who wants to come in and talk to us about it, same as with the Thames side. We'll listen to them and we'll take it from there. But at this present moment in time, I think there are an awful lot of myths that go around about this place, about how much it's used. I believe there's an open day there on the 4th of December. I didn't know about it until yesterday. But I've now asked officers if they can make a note of the numbers of people that actually use it. Yeah, no, and let's hope they do. And let's see how many do come. I'll be interested to see it. Thank you.
Councillor Muldowney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the last nearly 2 years now as a member of the Children's Services Committee and now as Chair of the Children's Services Committee, I've heard from officers about how much use, particularly our post-16 send children, get from the Grangewaters facility. Our post-16 send children have enjoyed their twice-weekly outings to Grangewaters. This provision was made in response to the send Ofsted inspection, which ruled that we needed to, which ruled that we required improvement in that service, and feedback from our post-16 send children that their present provision was boring, to sum it up. So I'm somewhat surprised to hear Councillor Johnson say that schools will not use the Grangewaters facilities. In that case, why is it good enough, if it's really that bad, why do we consider it good enough to send our most vulnerable children to use this facility? Speaking to local residents who are passionate about canoeing and kayaking, I would echo what Councillor Fletcher said about it being the only safe venue to safely teach students this sport, I think, in the whole of Essex. We know that outdoor education is absolutely essential for our SEND children particularly, but all our children, and this venue provides an outstanding facility which will help us recover from COVID. Thank you.
Councillor Spillman.
Hi, I just think that this is the point of this review is to open doors to greater potential for what is an underused asset that could be so much more. I recently visited a sort of similar sized area near Gatwick, near Crawley, which has seasonal events all year round, run at a sort of Universal Studios sort of standard. And that's what we should have in Thurrock. And so by putting this asset up for consideration, we open up the possibility of bringing in investment that a council, and experience and expertise that this council can't apply because leisure, hospitality and sports isn't his specialism, and we bring that possibility. So I welcome I understand the sentiment, and I welcome the sentiment from the councillor, and I welcome his concerns, but I just think that we need to, I think that this is an administration that is looking at progress, and I think sadly, as an opposition, you're quite regressive in the way that you look at development in this borough. And I think that's across the board. And I think this is just another example of that.
Councillor Worrell.
Madam Mayor, can I just... I was asked a direct question as a point of order, so I'd like to just come back and answer the question from Councillor Muldowney about why do we, if it's not good enough, why do we send our most vulnerable children there? Well, I do admit that most of the use there from schools is with children with special education needs. And we send them there, and yes, they do enjoy it. But you're forgetting the question, you know, should we be running a facility like this? Could it not be done better by someone else? Because I know, because I wouldn't have let this go any further if I hadn't been assured that all those activities that the children with special education needs undertake at Grange Waters couldn't be done anywhere else at the same cost, and they can. So that's why we let them go there.
Councillor Worrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the problem with Grange Waters is we just don't shout out about how good it is. We had 200 children there so many days throughout the summer, and we didn't have one press release to say. It was all over social media, videos, everything. These are our Thurrock young people, those families pay for school clubs there. And this facility, I agree with Councillor Brockwood, it could be so much more. It should be a residential site. You know, I work within an organisation where it's mandatory that young people go on a residential for 3 nights as part of their programme. They can't go to Grange Waters because it hasn't got the facilities. It was half done. No, it was half done. You know, it's got rubbish bunk beds, the kitchens are rubbish, didn't have a tin opener, you know, like little things. So it does need a real overhaul because it could be a money spinner. Milton Keynes, Norfolk, Peterborough, you know, all over the place. Kent, they're raking it in. We're now having to move young people's residentials further down because we can't put them in because they're all rammed. You know, so if they can do it, why can't we do it? It needs investment, it needs a fresh set of eyes, and I'll tell you why it's being looked at, because most of it is the council paying the council for a service. So the income is coming from the council, and that's why we really have to look at it. You know, so we just need a refresh. You talked about business plans. Let's write a Grange Waters business plan and secure that centre for the future, because the anglers and the boats and all of the stuff, you know, they should be having the opportunity to be able to have their say about it, and I reckon it could really work if we was to actually really try, because we don't really try and we haven't ever really tried. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Fletcher, do you wish to sum up? Oh, sorry, I've got Councillor Gledhill wants to speak. Sorry, I didn't see him.
It will be very, very brief and hopefully somewhat informative to Councillor Fletcher. It's quite obvious, and we've heard time and time again tonight and in the past, that outside organisations and bodies, especially those that are community-based, have the ability to attract extra money that councils can't do. They attract tax breaks that councils can't get. And unless we go down a route of saying, you know, this is not one of the services that we can continue to run, we can't then attract the community asset disposal programme and then hopefully get not only those that currently use it, but other people to use it. So my personal thought is, and I unfortunately will be voting against this motion, is to say that we need to continue to see what we can get out there that is better. And Councillor Fletcher, I find if you suddenly lose your place when you're talking, you're in emotion, if you mention Peppa Pig World, you'll get away with it.
Councillor Fletcher, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How do I follow that? Right. I mean, to be honest, I think what's clear is that there's a lot of shared opinion. A, about the value of the site. Okay, I appreciate what Councillor Johnson has said. I think I'm sure the centre would be interested to know if there is negative feedback, because I'm sure they'd love to do something about it. I think there is agreement that we've got an asset here with which we could do more. I don't think anybody's disagreeing that. I think perhaps where we may disagree is whether selling it, and I specifically mentioned selling it because obviously it's what's in my motion here, whether selling it is the answer. Whether you have to sell off a facility like this to get that expertise in. I don't believe it's either keep or sell. I think there are a lot of other options that we need to be looking at. For me, it's great news to hear that we've got no intention of closing it, that we appreciate its value. That's great, we're halfway there. All I would ask is that we as a chamber consider, as we've all said here, what we can do to make more of this facility, what we can do to market it better, which this is something they themselves say we don't do very well. We're not good at marketing, it's not something that, it's not part of our skill set. So how do we get the skills, the expertise in to really make something of this facility, and do we really need to sell it in order to do that? That's simply the question that I would put. Is there not another way? So thank you very much for your time.
I will now proceed to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those, thank you. All those against, please raise your hand. Right, the motion's lost. Motion 2. Councillor Worrell, do you wish to propose and speak to your motion as printed on page 45 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very simple. On behalf of the residents of Richmond Road, alongside those voted around the former Grade Adult College and Alpine Scout Centre, we ask for a halt to any demolition or development on this site until there is a master plan for this site with consultation and agreement with the residents. It is not acceptable this type of piecemeal approach to development on this site or any other site. We have a cabinet-endorsed housing development strategy for all sites, and again this process is not being followed. The Grade Adult College is on the shelved housing development, and this has a red line surrounding the whole site. To infer that demolishing the building is nothing to do with the future proposed development would be very misleading. The current plans to demolish the site and add new gates next to the closed entrance to the college will remove several parking spaces and will cause even more problems to this small and very busy road. It is key to any development that residents are consulted and play a key part from the very onset. But the first residents heard about this was letters through their doors. This council did not even have the courtesy to send letters to all the residents that would be affected. No more than a handful of residents received the letter, and that's not okay. It's also not okay to provide a range of reasons as to why the changes to the site are happening. When I asked why the demolition is happening, I have had 2 meetings and 3 different answers. It seems shambolic and not how we should be evidencing major changes to this area. This is a very missed opportunity to involve the ward councillors and residents and properly plan to develop the land in our borough. I ask council to call
Is that seconded? Councillor, would you like to speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate? Thank you. Does any other member wish to comment on the motion? No. Oh, Councillor Coxhill. Oh, Councillor Head was first, actually, weren't you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Warren, for the motion. Some of us have got quite long memories, and if memory serves, I believe you was on a cabinet which, frankly, there was a ward councillor that attended that meeting and asked you not to do something, and you as a cabinet disposed of a piece of land which 10 years later is still causing agony to the east of the borough, which is the Sandpits car park. I do find it quite incredulous that you come here, insisting that all councillors have involvement with it. With respect, we didn't have the same luxury. However, your points are noted.
Councillor Cox.
Yeah, the motion's quite an interesting one, really, because obviously it calls upon the cabinet to halt plans to sell or close. Oh, no, sorry, I don't know that. We're going to Peppa Pig. The site to actually, I don't understand why you would stop the demolition. I think we've accepted the adult college has gone, it's moving, the adult college is very happy where they've moved to, or where they're moving towards a permanent home. I just think we've got to, you can't leave sites that are open to, before they demolish them. The thing I get frustrated with is leaving buildings there, paying business rates, this council pays business rates on there, and then how can we, and it's an empty buildings, we've got to actually, can't do that. So I don't see the demolition. I take your point on if you don't feel that there's been proper consultation, because I don't want it. The site is a prime site in the middle of there, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to, just like Beanocky, and there were numerous consultation responses to get the right site before it went to planning. I think that, and I will look at the things where we haven't had enough consultation before it. Which sheets consultation before we go forward, and it needs to be. Whether that's the council brings something forward or other people are in, if we go through, we haven't decided. But what we do need to do is decide that site with plenty of consultation to the residents in the area and the ward councillors. That is important. But the demolition is the reason why I'm voting against this, because the demolition is, we've got to demolise this.
Councillor Worrell, do you wish to sum up? Oh, sorry, Councillor Kemp to speak.
Part of the reason for bringing the motion is to try and head off problems in the future. And I listened to what Councillor Councillor was saying, and I think this is more akin to something like Belmont Road, where there is a site there that is ripe for development. If a sensitive development is put forward, we can actually help the existing residents to overcome some of the problems with congestion and lack of parking that they've suffered for years and years. But doing what's happening at the moment in a piecemeal fashion, so the housing list, the sites list that came forward January before last suggested that on that site there could be 20 homes where the old council club was. We're now looking to demolish the old adult community college. I have to say, we haven't yet seen the demolition plan, we haven't yet seen the site access plan, we haven't yet seen the historic building survey that's needed because the building goes back to 1890. So I do think we're jumping the gun with going for demolition. All we're asking for is that we take a step back, look at the site holistically, come forward with a master plan that we can consult on with local residents, and hopefully we'll get a win-win. I don't think that's beyond us, and that's all we're asking for here this evening.
Councillor Worrell, do you wish to sum up? We're moving on. Councillor Worrell, do you wish to sum up?
When we talk about the stopping the demolition, all thrown out of the door, just like that, for nothing. You know, let's just stop it, let's review it, and let's just, you know, don't do it, you know. All because so I'm asking people, Councillor, Mayor, Madam Mayor, I'd like a requisition vote because I really feel strongly about it. You know, I think if we've got a process, we should be following our own process.
Right. I will now proceed to the vote. So all those in favour, please raise their hand. Well, if you all hadn't been talking all night, I might have heard or seen, but everyone's changed.
I only mentioned you in some meeting tonight, so you haven't got to
The mayor's meeting is just the mayor.
Right, I will now proceed to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Oh, right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I call out your name, Councillors, if you could say whether you're for, against or abstain from the motion. Councillor Abbas. Councillor Akinbowen. Councillor Anderson. Councillor Baker. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Carter. Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor Carter? Councillor Chickwell. Councillor Cockshaw. Councillor Duffin. Councillor Fish. Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Gledhill. Councillor Howden. Councillor Hebb. Councillor Hewlin. Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Cathy Kent. Councillor John Kent. Councillor Kerrin. Councillor Lydiard. Councillor Little. Councillor Maney. Councillor Massey. Councillor Mays. Councillor Muldowney. Councillor Okanade. Councillor Onanaji. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Piccolo. Councillor Polly. Councillor Apothecary. Councillor Ralph. Councillor Raper. Councillor Redsell. Councillor Rigby. Councillor Shinnock.
For.
Councillor Smith. Councillor Snell. Councillor Spillman. Councillor Tandy. Councillor Van Day. Councillor Watson. Councillor Worrell.
So disrespectful. The motion's lost. Okay, motion 3. Councillor Muldowney, do you wish to propose and then speak to your motion as printed on page 47 of the agenda? You have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, as this has been a very long meeting, and I think we're all flagging, I'd like to withdraw the motion, defer it to the next council meeting.
Right, thank you. Right, that concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare. Can you be quiet, please? Right, that concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed. Can I ask members to remain seated whilst members of the public, well, I think they've all left, haven't they? Made their way to the exit first. Thank you.